Welcome to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista, where we chat with industry leaders and get their take on the challenges facing the market. And maybe we'll have a little fun along the way. On this week's episode of the Marketing Stir podcast, Sarah Zarell from Sells Brands joins AJ and Vincent to discuss what it's like to balance multiple brands with distinct target audiences, the benefits of going corporate, and how social media and e-commerce have changed the industry.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello, and welcome to another episode of Stirista's The Marketing Stir. I am your brightly colored shirted Vincent Petrofessa, one of your hosts, the Vice President of B2B Products and Partnerships here at Stirista. It is so great to be here with you, The Marketing Stir. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the recent love, a lot of love for a multitude of things. One, I was at a conference. People coming up to me, I love the podcast. Well, I love you, sir. Thank you for that. It was only one person, maybe seven, but it was still great. And it's great to be here. But let's pause. Let's talk about Stirista just for a few seconds, right? Who are we? Why are we here, right? Stirista, we're a marketing technology company. We own our own business-to-business data, business-to-consumer data. We help companies access that data to help them get new customers through our own DSP, our own email sending platform. Email me, vincent@stirista.com. And you're using that email. Boy, are you. Not always for the reason I intend. A lot of people want to get on the podcast. Just wait your turn. We'll see. Anyway, the other thing I'm happy about, ladies and gentlemen, is he's back. I felt like we've missed him for a little bit. He's busy. He's our CEO. My partner in crime on the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. AJ Gupta. What's up, AJ?
Hey, Vincent. Yeah, it looks like I missed a couple of podcasts. Glad to be back with a great guest. And it was good seeing you this past weekend as well.
Absolutely. AJ made an appearance in New York City. You know, the whole city gets excited when AJ comes into town. We had a great meal, great chats. We stopped into a comedy club where I was just going to go say hello to friends. But then they said, Vincent, get up on stage. And I did. And I had two shows, rocked it out. And then, of course, my friend AJ here says, you know, maybe I should do stand-up comedy. Why? Because it looks easy. It's supposed to look easy, AJ, for us. And then, of course, I'm like, he's going to read a book or something and become better than me at stand-up comedy. The audience doesn't believe that. But speaking of you, AJ, speaking of a few things. So announcement, right? A lot of you already know this, that I am going to be back hosting the Silver Apple Awards in New York City, November 7th. Maybe this guest will make an appearance. She's always in New York, but we'll see. I'm hosting, it's the 40th annual. And one of the honorees this year is our very own for the Disruptor Award, the Silver Apple, the Disruptor Award. He's disrupting things, ladies and gentlemen. AJ Gupta is one of the honorees for the 40th annual. You got me there, you got AJ, a lot of great guests, New York City, Hard Rock Hotel, which I didn't even know there was a Hard Rock Hotel here. Apparently there is. And it's November 7th. Be there. So congrats on that, AJ.
Thank you. Yeah, at first I was concerned I was getting the Silver Apple Award. I was like, wait a second, I don't have silver hair yet. What is happening? But I was glad to hear it's the Disruptor Award. And no, it's going to be fun. It's probably the biggest award in our kind of data marketing world. So it's a true honor, and you'll be hosting and presenting. I just have to be careful with your jokes, and but I'll be ready with some of my own, as you said.
Exactly. I'm sure HR wants us to run our jokes by them first, but yes, it's going to be fun. It is like the Silver Apple Award, normally it's 25 years in service, but this is a specialized one that they've been giving out. It's the Disruptor Award for those people younger, right? But this is like your EGOT, man. This is like an EGOT. This is you got the Rising Star Award and you got this. I'm still a Silver Apple away from joining that distinguished club, but it's going to be amazing. But enough about us, AJ. Let me talk about this guest. First of all, this guest, I was shocked. I was like, you're a New Yorker, right? She's like, no, but she's in New York a lot. We haven't met yet. We're going to change that because she is amazing. You're going to love her. And that's a compliment when I say that. You've heard me say that, listeners, for a few guests, very few. If I feel like you're a New Yorker, then that's a compliment. and she took it as well. So it's great. But we have an amazing guest. She's the chief marketing officer at Sells Brands. Who are Sells Brands? We're going to get into that. Maybe you are familiar with that part of it, but you're definitely going to be familiar with the other parts of the organization. Ladies and gentlemen, my new friend, Sarah Zarel. What's going on, Sarah?
Gosh, it is such a compliment to be called a New Yorker. Thank you guys so much for having me. And it's true. I feel like there is a bit of a New York City in my heart, and I plan to, I spend probably like, I don't know, more than 50%, between 30 and 50% of my time there. And so it's like a second home there, or JFK, it's like,
Yeah.
maybe the airport's my second home. We don't know. Yeah, so Sells Brands is a fashion house for footwear. We have 4 labels. We have Chinese Laundry, Dirty Laundry, CL by Laundry, and 42 Gold. We've been around for 53 years, which is family owned and operated. We've stood the test of time, and I was brought in to revitalize Chinese laundry specifically and separate all 4 of the labels.
Yeah, nice. So I was so pleased to hear, because I've heard of Chinese Laundry, right? I've heard of that brand, but it was amazing to hear of all the others. So you're basically your role, you're tasked with the branding, the marketing of all 4. Is it 4 of those? Wow.
All 4.
Interesting. That's amazing. So talk to us. We're going to dig into deeper what background and media and all that. But a question that we ask everyone, Sarah, is how did you get started in marketing? Clear path, fell into it. Talk to us about it.
I actually started at a marketing agency as a copywriter. I was standing in on a TV show in Los Angeles and decided that I needed another revenue stream. And so answered the call to be a copywriter, moved my way up through the organization and became a brand manager, and got to do all things agency side before I was poached away to be one of the founding employees at a tech startup.
Well, you've worked at agencies and brands. What is kind of the difference? What's similar?
It's so different to be at an agency versus a brand, because with an agency, you are addressing the marketing and branding needs of multiple brands. And at a brand, you're focused on the one. Where I get the unique challenge now is that I have 4 brands. So I'm so grateful for my agency experience, because it's kind of similar in that I'm having to address the needs of four different labels at once.
And then what trends are you currently seeing in marketing, and how are you incorporating those in your strategies?
Gosh, for us, live selling is one of the best ways to move the needle. I, in all transparency, have not hacked the code on TikTok and actually getting it to move the needle, but it's definitely where I see kind of the direct to consumer sales going, and somewhere where we're putting a lot of attention for us. And then just making sure that content, right? Content is so important, and the quality of it is so important. And I have put, like, my art director is one of my closest collaborators, because I see such a difference in the quality of content that's driving a higher ROI than kind of setting it and forgetting it. So I think we're back focused on brand.
We have a young lady we hired to do our TikTok content. So it went from having maybe 2 videos over the last year. Now we're getting 2 a day or 5 a week. So we are trying to do the same thing, crack the code on TikTok.
Yeah, just like focusing on and trying to catch the trends and jump on them is so difficult. I hired somebody as well, and she's absolutely knocking it out of the park, and constantly like pulling me in and being like, "There's this trend, you have to do this thing." And I'm like, "This is so awkward. Why do I have to do this?"
We'll have to share each other's TikTok videos.
If you follow Chinese Laundry on TikTok, you'll just see me like being very embarrassing.
Yeah, and AJ, watching you say the word demure was hysterical. I was like, I get it from like a consumer brand, but it's so funny to see. And now that he's, our social media manager is like, wow, you're really trending, AJ. A lot of people are following you. And I'm like, This is ridiculous. It's
Yeah,
this is
I'm sure it hurt your feelings to see me get 500,000 views.
yeah, no, it did. It certainly did. And but that's a whole other podcast. But no, it's like so funny to see that. And so Sarah, talk to us about fashion retail. Is that kind of what drew you to sales?
Well, I started, like I said, went from marketing agency to being poached to go to a tech company, and we built out the first algorithm that essentially suggested items by taste profile and kind of changed online shopping. And so through that process of sitting with the CTO and tagging every item that was available online at the time, which was in like 2014, I got to know fashion really intimately, and I had worked as a stylist for a bit, and growing up made my own clothes. So I've been inclined to the fashion industry for a really long time. Um, and and so that was kind of my first taste of it. But I then went on to leave fashion behind and found a company called Pavement. It was in the parking space, and got to build a robust tech company, which I left in the beginning of 2020, which was great because we had an event-based strategy. And so nobody was parking, of course. And had the opportunity to have a brief moment at a flower company where I basically dug in and said, hey, we need to pivot this brand to be a business to business model. And in the process of that was being courted by sales brands to jump in as their CMO, and ultimately decided that I had built companies from 0 to 50 million and wanted the task of building beyond that, and to stepping into kind of a legacy brand and revitalizing rather than building from scratch.
No, that's amazing. I love the story, and I know we're going to get into some more about the you being an entrepreneur. I want to talk about that as well because I love that aspect. Talk to us about the difference. So someone I've heard of Chinese laundry. Obviously, it's I don't shop there personally because it's shoes, women's shoes, right? But the customer, right? What you're going for, are all the brands different within? How would you kind of categorize that? And when you say like revamping, what are some things you're looking to revamp there?
Yes, all 4 of the brands are different and they have different audiences. However, when I started, they were kind of serving similar audiences. And if you're trying to serve everyone, you're really serving no one. And so I wanted us to get really specific about what the brand what each brand stood for, what the voice was, and then that would allow us to drive everything from, it starts with product, from design of the footwear all the way through the marketing. And so, for example, we had to go in and say, okay, like who's actually buying our shoes? Who do we want to be buying our shoes? What can they afford? So we have Chinese Laundry, that's our kind of the flagship brand. And it is trendy, accessible footwear for women, and or for anybody that wants to wear it, of course. And it was so popular. It's like the shoe that I wore to prom. I'm sure if you like mention it to ladies, they're like, oh yeah, I wore that in high school. It was like so hip and so cool. And then it kind of just dropped off, and for a variety of reasons. And so I've gotten to come in and really hone back in on the audience, and then separate the other 3 brands, because we've got Dirty Laundry, which is kind of the girl who is no longer shopping at Hot Topic, and is still wanting kind of a more like edgy shoe, kind of a Doc Martens customer, or maybe so it's like heavy lug shoes and kind of trendier and a little bit younger. And that's the way you talk to that customer is very different than the way you talk to a Chinese Laundry customer that's buying a lot of dress shoes and probably working her first job and is wanting more of a tailored look. And then we have CL by Laundry, which is more of a kind of mom's demographic. Doesn't have to be a mom, but it's comfortable and a shoe you can wear all day to drop off the kids at school, or to to go to work, come home, make dinner. You don't have to take your shoes off. So that more like comfort line. And then we have 42 Gold, which is our aspiring luxury line, that's more like leather products, and is a little bit more refined and tailored. So yeah, I had to come in and address all points of how do we make these brands different from each other.
Sarah, you were an entrepreneur for a long time. What made you sort of do the switch and go corporate?
I went corporate because, sometimes it's nice to not have to worry about keeping money in the bank. I think it's something that a lot of entrepreneurs don't talk about. But like as a founder, and I was the chief brand officer, my co-founder at Pavement was our CEO. And, as a founder, you're constantly worried about like, do we have money in the bank? What's our runway, right? Like, what's our runway? What's our runway? What's our runway? And so there was something that was nice to kind of sit back and be like, you know what, I'm going to walk into a corporate environment and thrive and be able to spend money instead of having to worry about keeping it in the bank to make payroll. And it's been a really great experience. And I think that there's a lot of entrepreneurs that have the mindset of like, oh, I can't work for somebody else. And I'm like, that is not true, because you work for your board. No matter what, you're always working for somebody. So I don't think that the difference between being an entrepreneur or working in a corporate environment is as far as people think it is.
Yeah, that's very true. I think I tell that to my staff all the time, who sometimes that haven't worked at other places think this is a corporate environment to work in. So, can you share what's been a significant learning experience for you, having worked at so many cool places?
I think the biggest lesson is no matter what, like never take anything personally, anything at all, no matter what. Because it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's just business. And you have to be driving that bottom line. And there's nothing about it that's personal. And that's for sure the biggest lesson. It's just like, just make a decision and make it right. And keep like moving forward, one step at a time.
That's good advice. I love it. I love it. Sarah, you hear retail media, right? All of this now, retail media network, retail media, it's kind of like that new buzzword, and retail's changed quite a bit. Now, I always say this in the podcast, like I'm spoiled being in Manhattan in New York because flagship stores are here. I get that experience. I love it. But like, talk to us like how you're using like the retail media. What is it supposed to be, right? How should people be using it?
I think that retail media and kind of the online shopping experience, the live shopping experience is, has come forth to address the fact that people aren't going to stores the same way. Stores are shifting. The way that major department stores are placing their buys is completely different. And the way that fashion used to work versus the way fashion works now is completely different. It used to be if you buyers would buy product for a region that generally would be driven by the weather and a taste profile, if you will, for that demographic. And then that's the only thing that the consumers could get. Now with online, right? Everybody can get anything. So that makes the choice so much larger, but it also it makes there be so much more noise and competition. And so as it relates to like a live selling or like how are we merchandising our website to be to stand out, it's like there's so much noise, and that's why you really have to have loyalty, or whatever you're doing on your media side of things or your retail media side of things really doesn't matter, because if nobody cares about your brand, you don't have that audience. It's like, how do you build the audience?
And Sarah, in your role, especially, your background, creativity is huge for you. How do you balance marketing campaigns that feature creativity, but also are data driven? Talk to us about that balance.
I mean, it's such a great question, because sometimes you want to like do these really amazing things that cost a lot of money. Like, how are you going to attribute the dollars back, right? And so that's where I just try to break up the budget so that it makes it a little bit easier to assess the data and to kind of assess like what's working and what's not, and to make sure that there's money that you can just throw at the wall to promote creativity and in the name of creativity. And I think that at the end of the day, it's those creative things that are so different than what other companies are doing that then make your top of funnel work better. right? You had like Maybelline that was one of the first to do the AI eyelashes on the London subway. And it really started something, and it was so different. And it started this whole marketing frenzy of AI and these surreal experiences that weren't really happening in real life. Those are like big, I think, innovative, fun things to do. And like those activations, I'm sure drove the bottom of funnel sales too.
So tell us a little bit about, what your marketing team looks like. What's your approach to leadership and team management when it comes to your own department?
We have a really small marketing department, and actually I had outsourced our website management and just recently took it in-house, and just separated from agencies in the last, I guess, 2 months, which is actually the second time I've done it since I've been at Sales. And now I'm just completely in the process of building it out, where I have my entire team doing, like, everybody's all hands on deck. It's a small team of, I have a photographer, I have my marketing coordinator that does social media, an influencer and TikTok. She's awesome. Ashley, big shout out to Ashley. We love her. And I have an art director who's incredible. Camille's like such a star and an innovator, and is also playing the role of graphic designer right now. She's an expert in email marketing. And then I have my executive assistant, who really deserves a promotion, who is diving into all things Shopify and is learning how to manage our Shopify store. So it's like this absolute smallest team. I'm personally running our ads, which has not been my background previously. But what's been really interesting about taking it all in-house is I feel like I'm really able to get my fingers on it, and we're able to test and drive for brand. And we're actually seeing better results than when we were outsourcing it. But it's everybody's wearing 7 hats. I wouldn't recommend it.
You're very hands-on. I love it. I'm going to have my head of marketing watch this podcast, so he does more too.
I work like a founder.
Yes, yeah, that's very well put. So this is a fun question we ask all of our guests, and I looked at your LinkedIn profile. It seems like you're pretty active on LinkedIn. So the question is this: what's a LinkedIn message that gets a response from you, and what's kind of a type of message that really annoys you?
Messages that get responses are generally like invitations to something cool. And ones that I don't prefer are when people are like, this is the last time I'm reaching out. And yeah, like you must be so busy. Like whenever it gets passive aggressive, I'm like, whoa, I'm never working with your organization. I'm like, I just haven't had time to go through my LinkedIn messages. Why are you acting like my ex-boyfriend? Like, no, don't be mean to me. Yeah, and I think that there's like a mindset of like, oh, like, yeah, like send the follow-ups, but like, don't be passive aggressive. Kindness costs nothing. Like, I don't know, bring value. Like either like offer me some great advice, tell me how you're gonna make my life easier, or invite me to do something cool.
I love it. Yeah, like I get those emails where it's like, did I do something wrong? Well, no, I didn't look at your email, or it has nothing to do with me. There's always like a lot of those people like, you got to reach out to like 17 times before someone says something. I'm like, come on, man. No, you don't. That's ridiculous. It's crazy. Sarah, before we wrap this up and we get to know you personally, we get to know our guests personally, interests, and everything. But I'd love to hear from you what you think, what would you like to see happen in the next like 2 or 3 years at Cells? Besides give your assistant a raise. So if he or she is listening, this is the time. If you listen to the Marketing Stir podcast, hit up Sarah for a raise.
Yeah, there's so many things that I want to see for the company. I've been there for about 2 years. that kind of first goal that I had was to make us a household name. And I have been addressing it brand by brand, with Chinese laundry as the main focus and dirty laundry as secondary. I actually feel like recently and in the last 6 months, there is more of a buzz about Chinese laundry. Got Taylor Swift to wear our shoes is a huge win. It was on my list of stretch goals. And so that was a giant win. But I also have some juicy partnerships that I'll be spinning up and that'll be launching. And I think that partnerships are such a great way to have shared audience and to build relevancy. And really just get us back to being that like number one shoe, right, for prom, for Chinese laundry, for dirty laundry. Like, oh, of course I'm wearing my dirty laundry shoes to Coachella, right, to the festivals. Where, for CL by Laundry, I've got flight attendants wearing it all day and are like so comfortable and enjoying it. And then, have kind of reaching that higher end audience that are like happy to swap out their Louboutins for, a pair of 42 gold. So I think it's just that like being in every woman's closet.
But also, like you said, it's like niche, right? Where it's like, if you're trying to sell to everyone, it seems like each brand has boom, 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 like, just why people love it and should learn more about it. So a closing thought, but before we do, what do you like to do? You're in California, right? Even though I'm positive you're still a New Yorker, but what do you like to do for fun, Sarah? What's the weekends like? Hobbies? Talk to us.
I love to walk, which must make me a New Yorker. Love a long walk on the beach, the thing that I've actually taken up this year that has been life-changing and so wildly enjoyable is that I've started doing contrast therapy, where I'll do like an infrared sauna and then cold plunge. And it's so enjoyable. So I'll do like a long walk on a Saturday morning with a dear friend, and we'll kind of manifest and talk about like what we want to create in our lives, which feels really good and juicy. See, there's the LA in me.
Yeah.
And then we'll go and we'll do contrast therapy where we're just, sweating out the week and then hopping in the cold plunge, which is, I think, about like 36 degrees for 6 minutes, where we blast music and talk each other through it. It's really enjoyable. And it makes me feel like I can do anything. Like, I'm like, oh, I can sit in this terrible meeting because I did that over the weekend for 6 minutes. And then was cold all day after.
That's what it means.
6 minutes is pretty impressive.
That's insane.
Yeah, I've done about 2-3 minutes. I don't think I've ever gone over 3. So I'm glad you're still alive.
It's I guess 6 minutes is where you get your peak results. I don't know. I'm not a health expert, but
that's 6 minutes now. Friends, I don't know if I want to be that dear friend who's hanging out. That's
the beach part, yes.
Beach part, yeah. And that's another thing. I'm like, New York. There's a beaches in New York, I guess, yeah, in the Hamptons and stuff. But no, that's awesome, Sarah. And lastly, just a final thought. Anything you want to leave our listeners with? Advice? A lot of people listening, most of them from this profession. So the floor is yours.
Yeah. I think that as we look at the ever-changing consumer landscape, I think it's important to know that like disruption is the new normal, and that as a marketer, it's really important to get to continue to build trust and credibility with your CFO and CEO, and to validate your and figure out like what are those success metrics and what do they look like, get them set, and work so closely to continue to get that buy-in, because it's the only way that we're going to be able to continue to navigate like the ever-changing marketplace.
Love it. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of The Marketing Stir. Thank you so much, Sarah. That is the Chief Marketing Officer at Sells Brands, our new pal, Sarah Zarel. I'm Vincent Petrofessa. That's Silver Apple Award winner, AJ Gupta. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista. Please like and subscribe. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, please email us at themarketingstir@stirista.com.